They had everything money could buy, and they knew it. Emma and Lily Ashford grew up behind gates, literal ones, wrought iron and 10 feet tall, the kind that told the rest of the town, "We are not like you." Their family name was printed on the side of 3 buildings downtown. Their mother wore diamonds to breakfast. Their father had a car for every day of the week. But here is what their money could not buy them: beauty. And in Whitmore, a town so obsessed with appearances it practically ran on them, that was the only currency that truly mattered. The Ashford girls walked into Whitmore Academy every morning with their pressed uniforms and their leather satchels, and still they felt invisible. Or worse, visible in all the wrong ways. Frizzy hair, blotchy skin, round cheeks that the other girls whispered about behind perfectly manicured hands. And then there was Sarah Huntley. Sarah was everything Emma and Lily were not. Tall, effortlessly stunning, the kind of girl who walked into a room and made everyone else feel like they were standing in her shadow. Her family was just as wealthy as the Ashfords, but Sarah had what money couldn't explain. She had that thing, that magnetism, that radiance. She also had a sharp tongue and zero mercy. "Look at them trying," she would whisper to her circle of polished, laughing friends as Emma and Lily passed. "Money can dress a girl up. It just can't fix everything." The laughter that followed those words lived in Emma and Lily's chest for years. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you were willing to pay any price? Drop a comment. This story is about to get dark. The night it all changed started like most dangerous nights do, quietly. The sisters sat together in their bedroom, the estate spread out below them like a kingdom that meant nothing. Emma pressed her forehead to the cold glass of the window. Lily pulled her knees to her chest and stared at the ceiling. Emma's voice was barely a whisper when she finally said it. "I wish we were beautiful, Lily. I wish we could walk into a room and make people stop breathing for a second." Lily didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. The longing in Emma's voice was her own longing, word for word. "I'll do anything," Lily finally said. "Anything to make them stop." The room shifted the moment those words left her lips. Neither of them could explain it later. The way the shadows deepened along the walls, the way the air went still and thick, like something had pressed its ear to the door and was now leaning in, listening. No wind, no sound, just a presence. And then a voice. "Do you truly wish for beauty?" Soft, almost gentle, coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once. They should have run. Any sensible girl would have run. But Emma and Lily Ashford had been humiliated for 1 year too many. And the voice didn't feel dangerous. It felt like a door. It felt like a yes after a lifetime of no. "Yes," Emma whispered, "we do." The voice smiled. Somehow, impossibly, they could feel it smiling. "Then come to me. I can give you beauty like no one has ever seen. But remember," a pause, long and deliberate, "every beauty comes at a price." They followed the voice through the misty woods behind their estate at midnight. 2 girls in nightgowns walking barefoot through damp grass, fog curling around their ankles like something alive. In the center of a clearing bathed in cold moonlight, they found it. An ancient mirror, taller than either of them, cracked down the center like something had tried to break it and failed. Its surface shimmered the way still water does just before something rises from beneath. And when they looked into it, they saw themselves, but not themselves. They saw versions of themselves, women who stopped traffic, women who commanded rooms, women whose faces the world would remember. The voice rose from the mirror like smoke. "Touch the glass. Everything you desire will be yours. But remember," a pause, long and deliberate, "every beauty comes at a price." They didn't hesitate. They pressed their fingers to the cold, ancient glass, and the world changed. A warmth tore through their bodies like lightning. Their skin tightened and glowed. Their hair fell in perfect glossy waves. Their faces rearranged themselves into something that made mirrors worth looking into. They walked back through the woods as different women. By morning, Whitmore would never be the same. Would you have touched that mirror? Be honest. Comment below. The town noticed immediately. There was no other word for what Emma and Lily had become except breathtaking. They walked into Whitmore Academy that Monday morning, and the hallways went quiet. Girls who had never looked their way now stared open-mouthed. Boys who had ignored them completely suddenly found reasons to walk the same route. Even Sarah Huntley, queen of everything, untouchable Sarah, paused in the middle of the corridor and stared. For one single moment, the smirk dropped from her face. That moment was worth everything. But Emma and Lily were smarter than to simply enjoy the attention. They weaponized it. Within 2 years of their transformation, they launched Glimmer Glow, a luxury beauty brand that promised to give customers a hint of the sisters' impossible radiance. Serums in crystal bottles, foundations that caught the light, lipsticks that lasted through anything. People went mad for it. Not because the products were necessarily revolutionary, although they were good, but because Emma and Lily wore them, and whatever touched their skin became something people would spend their last paycheck to own. Glimmer Glow grew from a table at a local market to a flagship store downtown to a national beauty empire in what felt like the blink of an eye. The sisters were on magazine covers, they were at runway shows, they were everywhere, and everywhere they went, they were worshipped. Every year, the town held the Whitmore Annual Beauty Competition, the most glamorous event in the calendar. Celebrities, socialites, beauty editors from New York, the who's who of everything that glittered. And every year, Glimmer Glow won. 10 years in a row. 10 trophies, 10 standing ovations, 10 moments where Emma and Lily stood on that stage and smiled their perfect smiles and watched Sarah Huntley, who had poured her family's fortune into her own brand, Radiance by Sarah, sit in the second row and clap with white-knuckled hands. The irony was not lost on anyone, least of all Sarah. How does it feel to watch someone you once looked down on rise above you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. After the 10th win, Sarah approached the sisters in the grand foyer. She wore a smile so forced it looked painted on. Congratulations again, Emma. Lily, quite the streak you have going. Emma raised one perfect eyebrow. Thank you, Sarah. Maybe next year you'll come a little closer. Though honestly, she tilted her head, a small, devastating smile on her lips. I wouldn't hold your breath. Lily laughed softly. Some people are just built for the top. Not everyone can help where they land. Sarah walked to her car, sat in the driver's seat, gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. Then she made a decision. She was going to find out exactly what Emma and Lily Ashford were hiding, because nobody rose that fast, nobody stayed perfect that long. There was a secret behind Glimmer Glow, and Sarah was going to find it if it was the last thing she did. Her name was Eunice, 26 years old, makeup artist, talented enough to turn heads at every show she worked. Ambitious enough to say yes when a woman like Sarah Huntley called her private number and made her an offer. The job was simple, Sarah explained. Get hired at Glimmer Glow. Get close to the sisters. Find out what they were really selling. There's something wrong with their success, Sarah said, her voice low and careful. Something that doesn't add up. I need you inside that building, Eunice. I need eyes I can trust. Eunice thought about it for exactly 4 seconds. When do I start? She started the following Monday. Glimmer Glow's headquarters was exactly what you'd expect from a brand worth 9 figures. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, mirrors everywhere. Long gold-framed mirrors on every wall, as if the building itself needed to admire its own reflection. Employees in matching black uniforms moved quickly and spoke in hushed tones, the way people do when they work somewhere that expects perfection. Eunice kept her head down and her eyes open. The sisters themselves were almost never in the building. When they did appear, they moved through it like ghosts, gliding down corridors, barely pausing, never truly stopping. Employees parted for them instinctively. No one spoke directly to them unless spoken to first. Their beauty up close was almost unsettling. Too smooth, too still, like a painting that someone had stretched over a face. Eunice noticed something else too, something that made her stop and reconsider everything she thought she knew about beauty brands. Glimmer Glow had no lab. No manufacturing room, no development floor, no chemists, no ingredient lists posted anywhere. The product arrived in sealed black crates from an unknown supplier, and no one on staff seemed to know or dare to ask where they actually came from. When Eunice asked a colleague casually, the woman just shrugged. The formula is proprietary. The sisters keep it private. Don't ask about it seriously. The warning was gentle, but it was still a warning. Have you ever worked somewhere that felt a little off? The kind of place where everyone pretends not to notice things? Tell me in the comments. The door at the back of the building was easy to miss if you weren't looking. Eunice had noticed it on her third day, but dismissed it. Just a utility door, she told herself. Service entrance, maybe. On her fourth week, staying late to finish a project, she walked past it again, and this time it was slightly open. Her heart knocked against her ribs. She glanced down the hallway, empty. The last of her colleagues had left 20 minutes ago. The building was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of her own breathing. She pushed the door open. Behind it was a staircase going down. The sensible thing was to close that door and go home. Eunice descended, step by step, her phone light barely making a dent in the darkness below. The air grew colder, damper. The walls changed from drywall to something older, stone maybe. She had the distinct and irrational feeling that the building above her had been constructed around the space, not the other way round. At the bottom was a hallway. At the end of the hallway was a door. And behind the door, she opened it, was a room that made her forget how to breathe. Strange symbols carved into every wall, candles unlit arranged in a circle on the floor. And in the center of the room, standing on its own, cracked clean down the middle, the mirror. It was exactly as old as it looked, older maybe, the kind of old that predates everything you've been taught to trust. Its surface didn't reflect the room correctly. The angles were wrong, the shadows fell in directions they had no business falling. Eunice's phone trembled in her hand. She had one thought, clear as water. I need to get out of here. She turned around and walked directly into Lily Ashford. There was no version of that moment that ended well. Eunice tried the obvious lie. I got lost. I was just looking for the bathroom. I didn't mean to. But Lily's face had already closed like a door slamming shut. Emma appeared a moment later, and something passed between the sisters in a single glance. The kind of communication that doesn't need words. Sarah sent you, Emma said, not a question. Eunice's silence answered for her. They led her back into the room. She went because Lily's grip on her arm left no room for argument, and because some part of her understood that running would only make this worse. They sat her in front of the mirror. Emma began lighting the candles. You didn't have to come here, Lily said, almost kindly, as she bound Eunice's wrists with a length of dark silk. But since you did, well, the mirror always needs what it needs. Please, Eunice said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. You already have everything. The brand, the beauty, the trophies. Why do you still need... Because without this, Emma cut her off, her voice flat and cold. It all disappears. Every year we don't return, the clock runs back. The skin, the hair, everything we've built, everything people love us for, it's borrowed, and the lender always collects." She said it without shame, without regret, the way someone describes a business arrangement they've long since made peace with. Lily knelt beside the mirror and opened a small velvet pouch. Silvery powder shimmered in her palm. "It's actually poetic, isn't it? You came to uncover our secret, and now you'll become part of it." The chanting started low. Both sisters together, voices braided into something that didn't sound like language and wasn't. The mirror began to glow. Not brightly, not like a lamp or a flame. It glowed the way deep water does when something is rising through it from far below. A cold, pulsing light that made the room feel smaller and the shadows feel heavier. Eunice felt it before she understood what it was. A pulling sensation, starting at her chest and radiating outward, like something was reaching through the glass and taking gentle hold of whatever she was made of. She thought of Sarah. Sarah who had hired her. Sarah who hadn't heard from her in days. Sarah who was many things, complicated things, flawed things, but who was out there, somewhere above, in the world of normal air and normal light. Please, Eunice thought, not to the sisters, not to anyone she could name. Please, someone figure out where I am. The chanting grew louder. The pulling grew stronger, and Eunice, with the last of her clarity, opened her mouth and screamed. What would you have done in Eunice's position? Comment, I need to know. Sarah had been calling Eunice every day for 5 days. No answer, no message, no explanation. She told herself it was probably nothing. Eunice had gotten cold feet. Eunice had found a better offer. Eunice was ignoring her because she'd learnt nothing and was embarrassed to say so. She told herself this for 4 of the 5 days. On the 5th day, she drove to Glimmerglow. She walked in with a smile and a story about a potential collaboration. Vague enough to be plausible, specific enough to get her past the front desk. The receptionists were polite. The wait was long. The sisters never appeared. But while she was being stalled in the lobby, Sarah walked. She kept it casual, hands in her pockets, eyes moving. She was just a woman admiring a beautiful building. Then she saw it, the door. She recognized it from something Eunice had mentioned in her last message, almost as an afterthought. There's this door at the back. I don't know if it means anything. The hallway cleared. Sarah opened the door and went down. The room hit her like a cold wave. The symbols, the candles, the mirror cracked and pulsing with its strange deep light. And Eunice, sitting before it, bound, pale as bone, her eyes open and wild with a fear that hadn't quite reached panic yet, because panic requires energy, and Eunice was running out of it. Sarah's whole body went still for 1 second. Then she moved. She had barely gotten her hands on the silk binding Eunice's wrists when she heard footsteps on the stairs. She ducked behind a tall wooden cabinet just as Emma and Lily entered the room, composed, unhurried, already chanting under their breath as they walked in like women beginning a familiar workday routine. Sarah pressed herself against the wall and watched. She watched the sisters position themselves at the mirror. She watched the light intensify. She watched the images that flickered across the glass. And for one awful, unguarded moment, she saw the sisters as they actually were. Not what the mirror had made them, what they had been before it. Tired faces, deep shadows under their eyes, the years the magic had eaten without them noticing. She almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Then she remembered Eunice, and her hand found the stone paperweight on the table beside her. She threw it. It caught the edge of the mirror with a crack like a gunshot. The glow stuttered. The chanting broke. Emma and Lily stumbled backward, their concentration shattered, and for one unguarded moment, they looked exactly as old and as frightened as they actually were. Then they saw Sarah. "What," Emma breathed, her voice going low and dangerous, "are you doing here?" Sarah stepped out from behind the cabinet. Her voice, to her own surprise, didn't shake. "I know what you are," she said. "I know all of it, and I'm going to make sure the rest of the world does too." Lily moved towards Sarah, but Emma's hand on her arm stopped her. Emma was thinking. "You don't understand what you are looking at," Emma said, quieter now. "We had nothing, Sarah. You made sure of that. Every day in that school, you reminded us that we were less than everyone else. We were just girls who wanted—" "I know what you wanted," Sarah said. Her voice didn't waver, but something behind it did. "And I'm not proud of what I did back then. But it doesn't justify this." She crossed the room and pulled the knot loose on Eunice's bindings. Eunice stood on unsteady legs, grabbing Sarah's arm for balance. Emma raised her hand. The mirror pulsed. And then Eunice, quiet, trembling Eunice, grabbed one of the falling candles from the floor and threw it directly at the mirror. The crash was enormous. The mirror didn't just break, it released. The sound was wrong, too large for the room, like something that had been compressed for a very long time had finally been allowed to expand. A dark mist poured from the shattered glass, cold and dense, moving against the air current, swirling towards the sisters like it recognized them. They screamed. The beauty left their faces the way cologne leaves a painting left too long in the sun, gradually, irreversibly. Lily's skin lost its glow first, then Emma's. Their hair dulled. Lines appeared where there had been smoothness. The years came back all at once. Every year the mirror had borrowed returned in seconds. They reached for each other. The mist pulled them towards the broken glass. And then, silence. The room was still. The mirror lay in pieces on the floor, dark and dead. The candles had all gone out. And where Emma and Lily Ashford had been standing, nothing. Sarah and Eunice stood in the wreckage and breathed. Finally, Sarah said, "It's over." Eunice nodded, slowly, like someone remembering how to use her own body. "Let's go." They climbed the stairs together, back up into the light. The story broke in 48 hours. Sarah gave the interview carefully, deliberately. Every detail, every piece of evidence. The room beneath the building, the ritual, the mirror, Eunice's disappearance and the reasons for it. She held nothing back. The world erupted. Glimmer Glow customers returned their products. Former employees went on record. Journalists dug up inconsistencies that had always been there, waiting for someone to look closely enough. The Ashford family, humiliated, devastated, refusing all comment, announced the brand's closure within a week. Emma and Lily were never found. Not a trace, not a clue. The investigators who entered the room beneath the building found only broken glass and cold stone. A few of them, when pressed, admitted they hadn't felt quite right in there. Sarah gave every interview she was asked to give, and in every single one, she made sure to say the same thing. The bravest person in this story is Eunice. She went in knowing the risk. She held on long enough to be found, and when it mattered most, she did what ended it. None of this happens without her. Eunice, who had gone into that building as a junior makeup artist working a side deal, came out of it as someone the industry suddenly very much wanted to know. The offers came quickly. She turned down the wrong ones. She accepted one that felt right. She became creative director at Radiance by Sarah, which in the months after Glimmer Glow's collapse became something else entirely. Not just a beauty brand, a statement, a brand that put its values in writing on the front of its packaging. Confidence is not a shade, it's a decision, and meant it. Customers didn't just buy from Radiance by Sarah because the products were good, though they were excellent. They bought from it because it felt honest, because it felt like something built by people who understood what the other side of beauty looked like. People who had paid for the lesson the hard way. A month after the scandal, Sarah and Eunice sat in a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Good coffee, No photographers. No one pretending to be anything they weren't. "Do you know what I keep thinking about?" Eunice said, turning her cup in her hands. "Tell me." "When I was in that room, before you came, I kept thinking, I should have said no. I should have trusted myself enough to say no to the whole thing and walk away. And I didn't, because I wanted to prove something. I wanted to be the girl who found the answer." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I wanted the same thing when I hired you. I wasn't trying to find justice. I was trying to win." They sat with that honesty between them like a third person at the table. "We both wanted to be better than them," Eunice finally said. "And we ended up just being better," Sarah said, "which is different." Eunice smiled. It was small and genuine and worth more than anything Glimmerglow had ever sold. The Ashford sister story became the kind of cautionary tale that people tell for years afterward. Some said they were still in the mirror, trapped in the pieces. Some said they'd found their way out and were living quietly somewhere, plain-faced and finally at peace. Some said the dark thing that lived in the glass was still out there, still waiting, still looking for the next pair of desperate hands to press against it. Sarah and Eunice chose to not think about it. They had a brand to build, a team that believed in something real, mornings full of work that actually meant something. And when people asked Sarah, as they often did, what the secret was behind Radiance by Sarah's success, she gave the same answer every time. "We stopped trying to be beautiful and started trying to be honest. And it turns out that's the one thing a mirror can never fake." Did Emma and Lily deserve what happened to them? Or do you feel some sympathy? And what about Sarah? Do you think she really changed? Tell me everything in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you for watching, lovelies. You make every story worth telling. Until next time, stay sharp, stay kind, and never touch a mirror you didn't bring yourself.